as the ants is. That kind of figure you'll get in your textbook. So please go through that figures. Figures are always important. When we think of our nervous system, uh, uh, then then we think of three structures that we have, like at your level. One is our brain. Uh, brain. Next is our uh, spinal cord, and the third is the nerves, which arise from these two structures, brain and spinal cord. So these are the three structures that you need to study in nervous system: brain, spinal cord, and nerves. And some nerves originate from your brain. They are called. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All it is in checks. Uh, Rakesh, sir, is the screen visible now? Yes, Modi sir. Now we can see the screen. All right. Thank you, sir. Ritika, good morning. Okay. Students, let me speak again from the beginning. This nervous system, our nervous system includes three different structures. They are our brain and our spinal cord. And this brain and spinal cord, they are included in a part of our nervous system that is called central nervous system. So our central nervous system includes these two structures, brain and spine. And from our brain and spine nerves, they originate, we know. And from our brain, whatever the nerves originate, they are called cranial nerves. They are cranial nerves. And these cranial nerves are 12 pairs in number. So you remember cranial nerves are 12 pairs of in number. And these cranial nerves, they originate from brain. And from our spinal cord, again, nerves originate. And whatever the nerves originate from our spinal cord, they are called spinal nerves. They are spinal nerves. So nerves originating from spinal cord, and their number is 31 pairs. So we know this. So this is what we are going to discuss in today's class. So our nervous system having these three structures: brain, spine, and nerves. Brain and spine, they are included in central nervous system, and nerves are included in peripheral nervous system. So what I know, this our nervous system has got these two divisions: central and peripheral. But when you'll study about nervous system in your textbook in grade 11 or 12, in 11 you'll study about the nervous system of earthworm, and in grade 12 you'll study about the nervous system of a mammal, specifically of a human. And that time your books will tell you the nervous system has got three divisions: central, peripheral, and they also mention about another division that is autonomic nervous system. I think you got about this autonomic nervous system in your textbook as well. But this is not how I classify nervous system. But that is beyond the scope of our this entrance test preparation. So we shall not discuss about that. But I still speak about all these three that I have written on board: that central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and autonomic nervous system. So, and nerves, I have told you, based on origin, they are of two kinds, originating from brain, cranial nerves, 12 pairs, and from spinal cord, spinal nerves, they are 31 pairs in number. So I shall start with autonomic nervous system. Little, I shall not speak much. Autonomic nervous system. Autonomic. So autonomic nervous system regulates what? Autonomic nervous system. You know that nervous system. And hormonal system, that endocrine system we discussed. I think we started our this bliss course classes with this hormonal system, endocrine system. So that endocrine system and this nervous system, they are the two systems that regulate our body activities. So whatever the activities your body performs, all that activities are controlled by two systems. They are actually communication systems, or regulatory systems, or controlling systems. We have got two systems to control our activities. So sometimes you become angry, sometimes you become happy, sometimes you study a lot, sometimes you like do exercise, sometimes you play, sometimes you sleep. Whatever activities you do, all these activities are controlled by two systems, namely nervous system and endocrine system. And now we are discussing about nervous system. And nervous system controls our motor activities. Motor activities means the activities which involve the movement of our body parts. Suppose you are walking, that is a motor activity. I'm speaking, and for speaking, I'm moving my tongue. That is a motor activity. So when I'm doing some bodily movement, like somebody will say in your class, please stand up. You stand up. Please raise your hand. If you know the answer, you raise your hand. So these all bodies movements, if are there in your activities, then remember they are motor activities. And whatever your motor activities are, they are of two kinds. One kind of motor activities we know they are voluntary motor activities. Voluntary motor voluntary motor activities. And next kind of motor activities that we call involuntary. Involuntary motor activities. So we have got two kinds of motor activities. Motor means movement. So if your body's some parts are moving in your activities, suppose I'm writing on a screen right now, so my hands, fingers, they are moving. So that means that is again my motor activity. And motor activities can be voluntary, can be involuntary. What I shall write on this screen, that I think first. I think, then only I write. I think, that means my brain's topmost part. My brain's topmost part gets involved in this process. And that topmost part of our brain is cerebrum. And this cerebrum, the topmost part, or the the conscious, spelling mistake could be the conscious part of our brain. So if any motor activity, your motor activity, body's motor activities, if they involve your cerebrum, I'm not saying brain, brain's topmost part, the largest part, the conscious part. The conscious part of your brain is cerebrum. If your cerebrum is involved in any motor activity, remember that motor activity is voluntary motor activity. And suppose you perform some activity, and that time while performing that activity, suppose your cerebrum is not involved, the conscious part of your brain is not involved, then that motor activity is called involuntary motor activities. And involuntary motor activities means, you can say, since your brain's conscious part is not involved in doing that activities, so these activities, you can say in your language, they are automatic motor activities. So you have studied about reflexes. I know you have studied about reflexes, reflex actions. Whenever you perform reflexes or reflex actions, your brain's this cerebrum is not involved. That means all your reflexes, remember, all your reflexes, they are involuntary activities. All your reflexes, because when you perform reflexes, your cerebrum is not involved, means involuntary activity. And all your involuntary motor activities, remember, they are controlled by a division of your nervous system, and that division is autonomic nervous system. So autonomic nervous system, what does it do? So what is that? I have not told you, because up to class 10 what you have studied, your nervous system has got three divisions: central, peripheral, and autonomic. And this autonomic nervous system, what is that? I have told you, it's a division of your nervous system that regulates, that controls your involuntary motor activities. I did not say motor activities only, involuntary, automatic motor activities, those motor activities which do not involve your cerebrum. That's about autonomic nervous system. And also, you have studied that this autonomic nervous system has got, okay, one example I can give, like involuntary motor activity, to help you understand. Voluntary means you will think. Suppose if I say, like, give your answer to this particular question, then you'll be thinking, and you'll be thinking, then only you'll be answering. Means your brain's conscious part, that cerebrum, is involved. Involuntary motor activity, one example, like your heartbeat. Your heart is beating, and suppose you want to commit suicide, and the best option is to stop your heart beating. The moment your heart will stop beating, then within seconds, within minutes, you will be dying. uh, and if you wish that heartbeat you stop, I want to die, I don't want to live on this earth anymore, so I don't think you can stop your heartbeat. Nobody can stop your heartbeat based on their wish. Your heart is moving, so that's motor activity, and that heart is moving, not that movement is not under your control. You cannot start, you cannot stop, so that is an automatic motor activity, an involuntary motor activity, and that kind of involuntary motor activities are controlled by autonomic nervous system. Another example I can give, like secretion of saliva in your oral cavity, or shedding tears from your tear glands. So these activities are not like under your conscious control. They happen automatically, and all your automatic activities, motor activities especially, they are controlled by autonomic nervous system. And this autonomic nervous system has got two divisions. We should be knowing little about that. Could be asked for entrance, in entrance. One division of this autonomic nervous system is sympathetic, and the next division is parasympathetic. So these two divisions could be important for entrance. So autonomic nervous system, what is that? I've told you all your automatic or involuntary motor activities are controlled by this system, and this system has got, including reflexes. I've told you all your reflexes are controlled by autonomic nervous system, and this autonomic nervous system has got two divisions. One sympathetic, the next one is parasympathetic. And what we should know about sympathetic and parasympathetic, you look, uh, whatever this sympathetic nervous system is, this sympathetic nervous system is for what? Uh, this sympathetic nervous system is now about this little. Let me tell you, sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic and parasympathetic, they are the two divisions of this autonomic nervous system. Whatever the sympathetic nervous system is, this nervous system is for fight or flight situations. Means this division becomes active during fight or flight situations. Fight or flight situations. So I think we had discussed about this somewhere in emergency hormones. If you remember, epinephrine and norepinephrine, they were discussed about, and these hormones are released from your adrenal medulla, the central portion of your adrenal glands, secretes the epinephrine and norepinephrine, and they prepare you for fight or flight situations. And let me tell you that adrenal medulla secretes those emergency hormones when it is stimulated by sympathetic nervous system. So what you have known, your sympathetic nervous system stimulates your adrenal medulla, adrenal glands. You remember, on top of your kidneys, they are two in number, triangle shape on top of your kidneys. And when cut open, then we see two distinct parts: outer part, cortex; inner part, medulla. I told you. And medulla secretes two hormones. They are emergency hormones. They are epinephrine and norepinephrine, also called adrenaline and noradrenaline. And these These hormones are released from adrenal medulla. Remember, when adrenal medulla is stimulated by sympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic nervous system stimulates your adrenal medulla. Then adrenal medulla secretes adrenaline and noradrenaline, and then these hormones actually prepare you for fight or flight situations. So what is that? We discussed a lot about that, so we are not going to discuss here. And in most of the cases, the sympathetic nervous system is stimulatory in effect. Stimulatory in effect, what is that? I shall tell you. Stimulatory in effect. uh, Next one, parasympathetic nervous system. When we think of parasympathetic nervous system, remember, mostly or in general, parasympathetic nervous system we call that is inhibitory in action. Inhibitory in action. So sympathetic is stimulatory and parasympathetic inhibitory in action. And one and second thing, what you remember, this parasympathetic nervous system is said to be for rest and repair. Rest and repair, or rest and digest, whatever you say. This is for that. So that means parasympathetic nervous system, remember, is active when you are in resting mode. Right now, I know that you are sitting in front of one screen to join this class. And if you are sitting doing nothing, just listening to me and looking at what I'm writing on board, that means your which division is active? Parasympathetic. Whenever we are resting, right now I'm sitting and like delivering this class. So right now, in my case also, parasympathetic nervous system is active. So when we are like running, walking, like cycling, playing football, basketball, so that time our sympathetic nervous system is active. And when we are resting, like now, watching TV, eating, like whenever like we are like in a still mode, like staying in one place only, that time parasympathetic nervous system is active. Parasympathetic is inhibitory in action, and sympathetic is stimulatory in action. What does it mean? I shall give one example. Think of your heartbeat. Your heartbeat. Sometimes your heartbeat is faster. Suppose when you are running, your heartbeat is faster, and sometimes your heartbeat is slower when you are about to sleep or when you are asleep. So that time your heartbeat is slow. So sometimes heartbeat fast, sometimes heartbeat slow. What makes that? So answer is this division: sympathetic and parasympathetic. Because of sympathetic nervous system, your heart beats faster. Whenever your heart beats faster, remember, sympathetic nervous system is causing that. And if your heartbeat slows as when you are asleep, that time you remember your parasympathetic nervous system is causing that. So I think you have learned about this: sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic for fight or flight situations, for emergency situations, for stressful situations, and mostly the effect is stimulatory. And parasympathetic, not always, mostly I'm telling. And parasympathetic nervous system mostly inhibitory in action, and parasympathetic is for rest and repair. Rest and repair. So when you are in resting condition, whatever you do, they are all because of this parasympathetic nervous system. So staying in one place, what do you do? Suppose you pass urine out, you defecate, whatever you do when you are resting. So all these activities. Suppose when do you digest food? Obviously, after eating, you do not go out to play football. So after eating, you take some rest. Why do you take rest after eating food? And if you go and play, then you'll have like tummy ache. So why? So body is also telling you that after eating, don't play. Look, you have got 8. So that means after eating, we should be taking rest for some time. Why? Because when we take rest, then our parasympathetic nervous system becomes active. And after eating food, if our parasympathetic nervous system is active, then remember, this causes that digestive juices to get secreted in our alimentary canal. And these digestive juices help our help in our this digestive process. So if you want your digestive process to be good, then obviously after eating you should be giving rest to your body to make your parasympathetic nervous system active. Okay, this is all about autonomic nervous system. Now, as per your book, we shall discuss about now this peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system. So, what I have told you, our peripheral nervous system includes nerves. Nerves. There are two kinds of nerves I have told you already based on their origin. Based on their origin. Based on origin, two types are there. Number one, we call cranial nerves, 12 pairs in number, originating from your brain. And next one is spinal nerves, 31 pairs in number, originating from your spinal cord. This is the classification of nerves based on origin. Based on origin. So you are thinking, sir, our teachers also told us about nerves. You are also telling us about nerves. So actually, what the nerves are, if you're thinking, so you think like in a very simple way. In a very simple way, what are nerves? So you remember they are actually bundles. They are bundles of neurons. They are bundles of neurons. Neurons means nerve cells. I think when you think of a nerve cell, you think of this kind of picture. This is a multipolar neuron. So like this. We know our nerve cell, multipolar nerve cell is something like this. Here, one nucleus is there. So when you think of this nerve cell, then nerve cells, which part is the longest part? Obviously, this part. This is what we call axon. So when I say it's a nerve, is a bundle of neurons. Actually, a nerve is a bundle of what? Axons. It's a bundle of axons. So many axons or so many neurons, they will bundle up together to form a nerve. So a nerve is very simple. A nerve is a bundle of so many neurons or so many axons, and such bundles can be cranial or can be spinal, depending on where they originate from. And the cranial nerves, 12 pairs, I told you earlier, and again I'm saying, and spinal nerves, they are 31 pairs in number. So, what's the difference between these two? Only their origin now. Remember that spinal nerves, they are all of mixed type. This is important. All the spinal nerves, they are of mixed type. Mixed type means what? So, spinal nerves, they transmit impulses. They transmit impulses from receptors to your CNS. CNS means that includes your brain and your spine, brain and spine, from receptors to CNS, and from CNS to your effectors, so there are like these two kinds of transmission of impulses. One from receptor to CNS. Receptor to CNS. Receptor to CNS means one example only, not true here in this case. One example. Suppose somebody has beaten you. Somebody has beaten you on your back. When somebody will beat you on your back, then what happens on your back? Certain spatial cells, we call them receptors, they get stimulated. Those receptors, they are the spatial cells that will perceive that somebody has beaten you. So, first initial perception of that beating, hitting, uh, who does that? So, initial perception. So, answer is your receptors are there, some spatial cells are there. They will perceive, oh, somebody has hit. And only knowing is not enough. So, the moment that somebody will hit you at your back, then what happens? That receptors, they get stimulated. Then those receptors, they may be on your in your skin. In your skin, you have got pain receptors, and those pain receptors are stimulated. Then they generate impulses, and those impulses are then transmitted to your CNS. So that brain or spine, they are involved in processing that information. What to do? So somebody has hit you at your back and in your skin. Pain receptors are stimulated. They have generated impulses, and those impulses are transmitted or passed on from receptors to your sensory neurons. And then you know, I think about this sensory neurons. Then sensory neurons will be transmitting impulses to your brain or to your spine, and their processing of that input happens. That sensory input processing happens. If your friend has hit you at your back, so you'll not be responding like friend, like having fun with you. But if somebody or stranger hits you, then your reaction will not be same. So when some stranger will hit you at your back, so you will instantly react. So you have to react or you don't have to react. If friend, you don't have to react. If a stranger, you have to react. So who will be making that decision? Obviously CNS. That means that input has to be into your CNS. So from receptors, informations are made input into your CNS. Their processing happens, and after that, what happens? Suppose you have to react. You have to react means now either you will be hitting him back, or you'll be speaking, you'll be saying, why have you hit me? That means your why have you hit me, your tongue muscles have to be active now. Or if you have to hit him back, then your hands and leg muscles, they have to be active. So that means now your muscles are going to perform some activity, some contractions. So your muscles are going to perform some activity, some contractions. That means in this example, your muscles, your leg muscles, your hand muscles, they are here effectors. They are effectors. So your effectors, your hand muscles, your leg muscles will be contracting in order to like move your hands, move your legs so that you can beat the next person. So those muscles, in this case, they are effectors. So effectors have to receive some input first. Then only they will be contracting, and that will cause that hitting back. And for that, from CNS, informations are to be carried to your effectors, to your muscles in this case. And what will be carrying that? Answer is motor neurons. So, you know, you have got two kinds of neurons. Sensory neurons, they are nerve cells. Sensory nerve cells, they'll be transmitting impulses from receptors to your CNS, receptors to your CNS, and motor neurons are those neurons, those nerve cells, which transmit nerve impulses from your CNS to your effector. Look, receptors to CNS, sensory neurons, and CNS to effectors, motor neurons. And receptors can be anywhere. So, just example, I gave pain receptors in your skin on your back. Somebody hit you, they got stimulated, they generated impulses. Those impulses were passed on to sensory neurons. Then sensory neurons transmitted those informations to your CNS. CNS makes the processing, and after that, CNS will pass on that motor output to some other neurons. We call them motor neurons, and these motor neurons they transmit impulses to effectors. Then effectors respond. Effectors respond, and effectors can be your muscles. Effectors can be your glands. If a small boy, if a small boy is hit hard, then that boy will not be hitting back. That boy will be crying. That time his glands are active. But if somebody will hit you, then you'll be hitting back. Your muscles are active. So in your case, muscles will be responding, and in case of a child, the tear glands means glands will be responding. So either glands respond or our muscles respond. So they are effectors. So whatever the structures respond, they are effectors. So sensory neurons will be transmitting impulses to your CNS, and motor neurons will be transmitting impulses away from your CNS. That much you have known. And here what I have told that all 31 pairs of the spinal nerves, they are of mixed type. Mixed type means you remember nerves. Nerves means what I have told you, they are bundles of what? Neurons. And what kind of nerves are said to be mixed? Remember these mixed nerves, they are the bundles of both sensory neurons as well as motor neurons. That means these mixed nerves will have sensory neurons, will have motor neurons. Look, very interesting. The same nerve will have sensory neurons, the same nerve will have motor neurons. That means they are such nerves which can transmit impulses to your CNS, and the same nerves can transmit impulses away from CNS. So simple. Look, so they are mixed nerves. And remember, all 31 pairs of spinal nerves, they are of mixed type. Mixed type means what? These 31 pairs of spinal nerves can transmit impulses towards your CNS from receptors, and away from your CNS to your effectors in both the directions, towards as well as away from your central nervous system. And those knobs, they are said to be mixed knobs. The concept you have got, all 31 pairs of spinal knobs, they are of mixed type. So mixed type means those knobs have got both sensory neurons transmitting impulses from receptors to CNS, and also motor neurons transmitting impulses from CNS to your effectors. So I think you have got now very good concept about spinal knobs. 31 pairs, all mixed type, can carry impulses in both the directions towards your CNS and away from your CNS. Now, what about cranial knobs? So, cranial knobs, they are the knobs which originate from your brain. They are 12 pairs in number. They are 12 pairs. And these cranial knobs, what kind of knobs are they? Mixed? Not all. Sensory? Not all. Motor? Not all. So remember, knobs can be sensory, knobs can be motor, knobs can be motor, and knobs can be mixed. Knobs can be mixed. So sensory, motor, and mixed. Sensory knobs, they are actually bundles of only sensory neurons. They have got only sensory neurons, bundles of only sensory neurons. Motor knobs, I have told you they are bundles of what? Neurons. What kind of neurons? So motor knobs have got only motor knobs have got motor knob cells. And mixed knobs, they have got both. They have got sensory neurons, as we discussed already, and they also have got motor neurons. So since they have got both sensory and motor neurons, that's why mixed knobs, they can transmit impulses both towards CNS and also away from CNS. Mixed knobs. But sensory knobs are those knobs, they will be transmitting impulses only towards your CNS from your receptors. So sensory sensory knobs are those knobs which transmit impulses from your receptors to your CNS only. And what about motor knobs? Motor knobs will be transmitting that impulses away from your CNS to your effectors. So only again, from CNS to effectors, impulses are carried along motor knobs. So motor knobs will be carrying only that impulses in this direction from CNS to effectors. And I've told you, effectors can be your muscles and effectors can be your glands. So motor knobs in one direction, sensory knobs in one direction, mixed knobs in both the direction. Sensory knobs are towards CNS, motor knobs away from CNS, and mixed knobs both towards and away from. And whatever that cranial knobs are, remember 12 pairs. Some of them are sensory, some of them are motor, and some of them mixed. So cranial knobs can be of all these three kinds: some sensory, some motor, some mixed. More than that, I shall not speak. And regarding this what we call spinal knobs, that about spinal knobs, let me speak little more. That whatever your spinal knobs are, one formula is there. This could be important. Spinal knobs, we know they are 31 pairs, and these 31 pairs of spinal knobs, they are classified into some categories. There are some categories. I think you should be knowing some spinal knobs. They are said to be cervical knobs. Cervical knobs means they originate in your neck region, whatever neck region you have got. Cranial knobs, they are 8 pairs. They originate from, you can say, from top. From top, the first 8 pairs of spinal knobs, they are cervical knobs. They are cervical from your neck region, and below that there are 12 pairs. 12 pairs of knobs, spinal knobs. They are called thoracic knobs. 12 pairs, and below that again you have got 5 pairs. 5 pairs, we call them lumbar knobs. lumbar nerves, and below that again you have got five pairs. They are called sacral nerves, and finally you have got coccygeal coccygeal nerves. They are one pair. So this is all about classification of spinal nerves. Little knowledge, extra knowledge I have shared with you. The spinal nerves, 31 pairs. All of them are mixed type. They originate from your spinal cord, having five different kinds. The top eight pairs cervical, below that 12 pairs thoracic, below that five pairs lumbar, below that five pairs sacral, and finally last pair they are called coccygeal nerves. So with this, we have completed learning about peripheral nervous system. Now, finally, what is left? The central nervous system. And here we need to discuss about two organs. One is brain, and the next one is spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord. So how to study? Like suppose this is our brain. Okay, one simple picture I have drawn here. Uh, in this picture, this is the anterior side. Anterior means your forehead side. This is suppose forehead side, this part, and this is posterior side. Posterior means your back side. Brains, one rough sketch only, much better like picture you will get in your textbook. Brain, I shall start with brain. What are the different parts of your brain? Details will not be discussed here. Certain major parts will be discussed. So here, actually, in this picture, I have shown three major parts, but I will speak about four. One major part is this: the topmost part I have told you. That is the largest part of your brain. That is cerebrum. That is cerebrum. You have seen in this picture. And starting with cerebrum, I shall speak about the cerebrum. After that, you have seen uh, below cerebrum. You have got here one part is there. This part below cerebrum, that is the main stem, of a plant, the main stem of a tree. That looks like this. Whatever this part is called brain stem. So in picture you should be knowing like which part is what, because figure would be there and you'll have to identify that part. So topmost part I've told you cerebrum, and after that whatever the that stem like part I have shown below that cerebrum, that is what we call brain stem, and behind brain stem and below cerebrum there is the second largest part. You can see here the second largest part is this. This is the second largest part, and this second largest part is behind your brainstem and below your cerebrum. And whatever this part is, this part is called cerebellum. So these three parts, the minimum you should be knowing. Cerebrum, the largest part, the topmost part. Below that, a stem-like structure, that is brainstem, and behind that brainstem means posterior to that brainstem, and below or inferior to your cerebrum, there is second largest part, that is cerebellum. And besides that, is there any other parts? Yes, another part is also there. That part is what we call diencephalon. One part is there here somewhere, diencephalon. So diencephalon is a part of your brain that lies above brainstem, and this part is diencephalon. Diencephalon. Okay, these are the parts. Diencephalon. So brain, we have seen brain, the topmost part, and below brain, what I told you, brain stem, and behind brain stem, I told you cerebellum, and actually between this cerebrum and this brain stem, there is another part that is called diencephalon. And whatever this brain stem is, in this picture you have seen brain stem. This brain stem has got three parts. One part is the topmost part. One part is this. First, color wise, I will show you. Second part is here. This is second part. Then third part is here. Here I have shown three colors in your brainstem, and in this picture, In this picture, uh, whatever this lower part is, this part, this black part that I have shown, this is spinal cord. So actually, brain continues downward as a spinal cord. So all the different parts I have shown here, and of this brainstem, whatever the three colored parts I have shown, they have got different names. The topmost part is called midbrain, mid midbrain. I think you can read out what I'm writing here. Midbrain, and this green part means below midbrain. There is another part that is called pons verily, and whatever the lowermost part of your brainstem is, that is called medulla. So these are the different parts of your brain. So now you have seen your brain has got many different parts, but always I say there are four major parts of your brain. One is the topmost part, the largest part, that is cerebrum, and below cerebrum, I told you brainstem. This brainstem actually continues as a spinal cord downward, and this brainstem has got three parts, of which the topmost part is midbrain, then middle part is bones, and the lowermost part is medulla. So midbrain, bones, and medulla. Midbrain, bones, and medulla, they together constitute your brainstem, and this brainstem is said to be the lowermost part. The topmost part of your brain, cerebrum. The lowermost part of your brain, that is brainstem. The brainstem has got how many parts? Three parts. The topmost part of that brainstem, midbrain. Below that, there is bones, and below that, again, there is medulla. So, among all these parts, which part of your brain is the lowermost? So, answer is that is medulla oblongata. That is the lowermost part. And behind brainstem, I told you there is something that is the second largest part, that is cerebellum. And actually, between your cerebrum, or the topmost part, and your brainstem, the lowermost part, between these two structures, there is another structure in between your cerebrum and brainstem, and that structure is diencephalon. Diencephalon. If you know these different parts, I think this is enough for your exam. So here I should be speaking about something important, that is about meninges. So you should be knowing about meninges. Meninges. So here I have marked one structure. Meninges. What are they? Let me tell you. What we know, our brain. Where is it? If I ask you, where is your brain? Your brain is about 1.4 kgs. 1.4 kgs. Your brain's mass is about 1.4 kgs. Very sensitive part, very sensitive part. And this brain is very sensitive, very important. And this part needs like high level of protection. Like in our country, Prime Minister, very powerful, very important person. So he has got very good security. In the same way, in our body, our brain is very important. So has got a very good protection. And that protection is by means of what? You will say, sir, by means of skull. Yes, we have got our skull, and that skull protects our in cases and protects our brain. So our skull protects our brain. In the same way, whatever our spinal cord is, that spinal cord is protected by our vertebrae. Vertebrae, the 26 bones that you have in your vertebral column. So your vertebral column has got 26. Remember, your vertebral column has got 26 bones, and those 26 bones, they are stacked up one above another to form a pile of 26 bones, and that is what we call our vertebral column. And that vertebral column, within vertebral column, your spine is within vertebral column. So your vertebral columns, that 26 vertebrae, not all, but many of them. So these vertebrae of your vertebral column, they protect your spine. So that means bony structures. Bony structures protect our brain and our spine. They are our central nervous system parts. And so obviously our brain and spine, no doubt, they are protected by some bony structures, by bones. But those bones and our brain and spine, they are not in direct contact. Not in direct contact. So that means if one bony structure is there, suppose this is your forehead, forehead's this bony structure, and suppose inside your brain is there like this. So your bony structure and your brain, suppose brain, so skull and brain. skull and brain, they are not in contact. Even if skull, within a skull your brain is there, but that skull's bones, we know our skull has got altogether 22 bones. So our skull again has got two parts, face and your cranium. So face has got 14 bones and your cranium has got 8 bones, and these cranial bones mainly protect your brain. But these cranial bones are not in contact with your brain. Between cranial bones and your brain, there are again three different layers, protective layers. Three different protective layers, and these protective layers are inner to your skull bones or vertebrae. So inner to skull bones, inner to vertebrae, there are three protective layers, and inner to these protective layers, then only you have got your brain and you have got your spine. So immediately your brain and spine, they are protected by three these protective layers, and onto to these protective layers, then only you have got bony structures to protect your brain and spine. And whatever these three protective layers I'm speaking about here, they are meninges. They are meninges. So you remember, meninges are the three protective layers which protect your brain and spine both. Your brain and spine both. After all, your brain and your spine, they are actually continuous structures. So brain is there, and plus your spine is there. They are continuous structures, and they are like protected and covered by three protective layers, and we call them meninges, of which whatever this innermost one is, that innermost one is called pia mater, remember. And whatever the middle protective layer is, that middle protective layer is called arachnoid matter. You have already studied, I know. That's arachnoid matter. And whatever this outermost layer is, that outermost layer is called dura mater. So for entrance, these meninges could be important. So pia mater, arachnoid matter, and dura mater. So they are the protective layers. But remember, inner one is pia mater, middle one is arachnoid or arachnoid matter, and outer one is dura mater. And durable. So remember, dura mater is like among these three, this is the most the toughest layer, I should say. This protects this our brain and spine. So three protective layers we have known here: biometer, arachnoid matter, and dura matter. And again, what you have to remember for exam, between biometer and arachnoid matter, that means in this picture, if I have to show, then that place is this one, this part, this yellow space that I have shown. This yellow space is between that biometer and arachnoid matter. So between biometer and arachnoid matter, whatever the space is, that space is occupied by some fluid. By some fluid. So actually, there is some fluid in this space between arachnoid matter and biometer. That space is called subarachnoid, subarachnoid space. That space is called subarachnoid space, and that space is filled with some fluid, and that fluid is important for exam. That fluid is called cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. I think you have studied, yes, about this cerebrospinal fluid. This cerebrospinal fluid, where is it found? Found in three different places, and here I have spoken about only one place, and that place is the space between your inner and middle meninges, biometer and arachnoid matter. Between them, whatever the space is, that space is called subarachnoid space, and this subarachnoid space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. So about these protective meninges we have learned. So little we came to know where we can find this cerebrospinal fluid. And next thing, let me tell you, where else can you find your this cerebrospinal fluid? So for that, let me tell you, whatever your brain is and whatever your spinal cord is, brain and spinal cord, they are not solid structures. They are not. They are not solid structures. Within spine, there is a space. There is a space within spine, a hollow space, and that space is called central canal. So within your spine, there is a hollow space called central canal, and within brain also there are cavities. There are cavities. Your brain is not totally solid. Within your brain, there are cavities. There are four cavities, and we call them ventricles. So ventricles you'll get in your heart. The heart. Your heart has got four chambers, of which the lower chambers, the pumping chambers, they are called ventricles. And the same ventricles, these terms are also used to describe the cavities we have in our brain. So they are four ventricles. So the cavities of your brain and the central canal of your spine, they are not empty. They are filled with again the same fluid that I discussed about earlier. That is called cerebro spinal fluid. And the the short form of this cerebrospinal fluid is CSF. So sometimes you could be asked, like, write the full form. What is the full form of this CSF? Then four options could be there. So the right option for that is this cerebrospinal fluid. So now you have known cerebrospinal fluid is found within brain in cavities called ventricles. Cerebrospinal fluid is found again within spine in central canal, and cerebrospinal fluid is also found outside brain, outside the spine, in between pia mater and arachnoid matter, and that space is called subarachnoid space, and that subarachnoid space also contains this cerebrospinal fluid, and this fluid is protective in function. Protective in function means your brain and your spine, they are protected by this cerebrospinal fluid. This is all about cerebrospinal fluid and meninges. Now we were talking about brain again. So brains, I told you there are four parts, of which the lowermost part is brainstem. I told you the lowermost part is brainstem, and this brainstem has got three parts. The three parts are, the topmost part is midbrain, and after that, below that we have got bones, and below that we have got medulla. And in your textbook, what is given, some functions of medulla are given. So here we shall be discussing about those functions. Number one, these medulla's functions I shall speak, and after that I shall stop, and this topic will be continued in our next class. Medulla's functions, some very important functions are performed by this medulla. Medulla is said to have respiratory center. Medulla is said to have respiratory center. So whatever your respiration is, that breathing process, respiration, that respiration, so important. Look, if somebody will stop your respiration or breathing for some minutes, then you will die. So that important. Respiration should go on. Breathing should go on. So what controls your breathing? Sometimes your breathing is fast when you are running. Sometimes your breathing is slow when you are asleep. So what determines that? Respiratory center. Where is it? That is in your medulla. So your respiration is controlled by medulla, but in higher classes, like in class 2, you'll later come to know, even pons is also responsible. So both pons and medulla, they control your respiration. But for class 10, this class 11's entrance, since in your class 10's book only medulla is mentioned, so you remember medulla has got that respiratory center, but the correct information is both pons and medulla, they are respiratory centers. So medulla controls your respiration. Not only that, medulla is also said to have cardiovascular center. Cardiovascular center. Cardiovascular center means, now cardiovascular, heart beating, heart rate. You say, no, like sometimes your heart rate is fast, means heartbeat is fast, heartbeat is slow. So what controls that? Again, answer is cardiovascular center. And where is it cardiovascular center? So answer is your medulla. Look, medulla is that important. Medulla has got respiratory center. Medulla has got cardiovascular center. Your blood pressure high or low. Your blood like flow in your vessels, fast or slow. Your heartbeat fast or slow. So all these are controlled by medulla. Your breathing is controlled by medulla, and medulla also controls like another activity that is given in your textbook. that is swallowing. So whatever your swallowing process is, that is again controlled by your medulla. That's all. Already 2 minutes passed. So today we discussed about this nervous system. It's not complete. Little more as we'll speak in next class. But here we have known some important functions of medulla could be important for entrance. That's all for now. Thank you. Thank you, Modi sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. Uh, Modi sir has finished his class.